A call came in from an unknown number. Who could it be? Hello?
Oh, hi. It's me, your son, Luke. I know divorcing dad was your choice, but you really need to step up and take responsibility as a parent. I'm in high school now, and I'd appreciate it if you stopped dragging me into your drama with him.
Excuse me. What are you talking about? And why are you even calling me? As I started to say that, Luke raised his voice.
I'm saying you need to hurry up and pay for my child support and school fees. This is all your fault for cheating in the first place. And now you're taking money from dad? Seriously, what is wrong with you?
His words made me furious, so I responded, "Who are you? I don't recall ever having a child."
Are you out of your mind? Or are you just pretending not to know so you can dodge paying? Don't mess with me.
Luke probably thought I was joking, but actually, I was being quite serious. Like I said, Luke isn't my child. About 14 years ago, I, Rachel, was approaching the third anniversary of my marriage to my ex-husband, James. Back then, our relationship wasn't much different than it had been before, and we got along fairly well. On our days off, we often went out together. After all, James was busy with work and was away on business trips about half the month. Since he worked in sales, he told me even before we got married that traveling would be a big part of his job, so I didn't think much of it. However, the one thing I found unusual was the topic of having children. Before we got married, I told him I loved kids and wanted to have them sooner rather than later. Of course, I understood that we'd need to plan together, and it wouldn't work if he wasn't on board. So, I decided not to rush and took my time. But in the 3 years since we got married, James never once mentioned anything about having children. When 3 years had passed, I finally thought it was strange, so I brought it up. About having kids, don't you think it's about time? It's been 3 years, and the older we get, the higher the risks of pregnancy.
Oh yeah, but I'm really busy with work right now.
When exactly are you not going to be busy?
What?
You keep saying that, and here we are, still waiting.
I'm busy with work. What do you want me to do?
If you keep saying things like that, it starts to make me wonder if it's really work.
What do you mean? I'm not doing anything suspicious, you know.
What? Something about this exchange felt off to me. I didn't actually think he was cheating. But for some reason, James looked flustered. Feeling that he was hiding something, I decided to look into him. And that's when I uncovered the truth behind his behavior. When I confronted him back then, his reactions, and what he was actually doing during those so-called business trips revealed something far worse than cheating. James had been living a double life. He spent half the month with me, his wife, and the other half with another family. But the most shocking part was that the other woman had a child. And that child was Luke, the same person who had just called me earlier. Luke was only 2 years old at the time, too young to understand what was happening. If there was any silver lining, it was that. Still, it was inevitable that someone would get hurt. Later, I decided to talk directly with the other woman, Olivia. When Olivia saw me, she greeted me casually, as if she already knew who I was. My first impression of her was that she wasn't very friendly. Despite the tension, I dove straight into the topic. I brought up James' double life, whether this arrangement was really okay, and who Luke's biological mother was. I laid everything on the table. But Olivia didn't so much as flinch. She showed no remorse and calmly began to answer. She confidently declared that she was Luke's mother. While James seemed to be trying to hide something, Olivia showed no intention of hiding anything and answered openly, which left me feeling slightly overwhelmed. Finally, I asked her what she planned to do moving forward.
I'm not doing anything. I have no intention of giving up this life, and am fine with how things are. But I doubt James will want to have any more kids.
Why do you think that?
When I told him I was pregnant with Luke, he didn't seem very happy. When I asked him about it, he said it wasn't the right time to have kids. So Luke was more of a coincidence. Otherwise, I don't think James would have had any children at all.
But he told me he liked kids. Does that mean he never intended to have children with me? At that, she gave a slight smile and said,
Isn't it funny? If that were true, then why did I, someone who didn't particularly want kids, end up having one, while you, who says you love kids, never even got pregnant? Can you really say he loves kids?
Well,
Honestly, I think James saying he loves kids was a lie. Maybe he thought agreeing with you would make him more attractive. It was probably just a line to win you over.
that's not true. I wanted to argue back, but I couldn't. Somehow, it felt like she had hit the nail on the head. And James never really seemed to think seriously about having kids, at least not with me. Taking all that into account, I found myself thinking Olivia might actually be right. The most I could do was file for alimony. Seeing Olivia's confident expression only made me feel more miserable. A few days later, I filled out the divorce papers, handed them to James, and informed him about my alimony claim. Perhaps Olivia had already told him about me, because James accepted the papers and the claim without any questions. In the end, why did he even marry me in the first place? That was the only thing left on my mind. On the day I packed my things and left the house, I asked him why he had married me.
Why? Honestly, I don't really know.
Really, if neither of us knows why we got married, then maybe we shouldn't have gotten married in the first place.
Yeah, you're probably right. If we hadn't, you wouldn't have that mark on your record now. But hey, it is what it is. You loved me enough to choose me, right? So let's just think of it as a mistake for both of us. From now on, let's live better lives. Thanks for everything.
Same to you. I'll make sure to avoid someone like you in my next life. And with that, our marriage ended. After becoming single again, I decided to make a fresh start. I changed jobs and moved out of state. Taking on everything with a new mindset turned out to be a great experience for me. Sometimes I would get logistical messages from James, but we never asked about each other's lives. I suppose neither of us was interested. James had started his life, and I had started my new one. Nearly 10 years had passed without any contact when, unexpectedly, a call came from Luke. I wondered what he could possibly want, and to my surprise, he demanded that I pay for his child support, tuition, and other expenses. Since Luke was James and Olivia's child, it was obvious I had no obligation to pay any of that. When I tried to explain, Luke wouldn't listen at all.
Aren't you ashamed of yourself as a mother? If you didn't want kids, then you shouldn't have had me.
Hearing him say this over and over started to make me angry. Still, I knew that getting upset would only make him less willing to listen. So, I waited for him to calm down a bit. After a few minutes, I finally had a chance to speak. Can I say something now? First, I need to ask, how did you even get my number?
That's obvious. I got it from Dad. Things at home haven't been great lately, so I thought something was off. And now we've finally run out of money for my tuition and everything else. Because of that, I've had to start working part-time. Dad said it's all your fault. He also told me a lot about you, like how you cheated, abandoned me and Dad, and left us behind. He even said you promised to pay money but never did. I never really asked him about the divorce before, but now I understand. It's all your fault.
I see. I finally understood why Luke was so angry. If what James told him had been true, of course he'd be furious. But James had lied to Luke and even stirred him up against me. Hearing that made my blood boil with anger. We were divorced. What a nuisance to deal with this now. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel sorry for Luke. Even though he wasn't my child, I couldn't bring myself to just abandon him, knowing he'd been deceived. Since then, I'd remarried and had children with my current husband. As a parent myself, I felt it was only right to do the bare minimum for Luke. The first step was to tell him the truth. He was 16 years old, so he was old enough to handle an adult conversation. Luke, everything I'm about to tell you is the truth. If you want proof, we can even do a DNA test or anything else you need. But for now, can you just listen?
All right.
I told him that we weren't related, that I had divorced James more than 10 years ago, and other truths about our past. At first, Luke refused to believe me, but as I laid out fact after fact, he started to show signs of being shaken.
If what you just told me is true, why would Dad make me call you?
Luke, you said earlier that you're working part-time, right? What are you doing with the money you're earning?
I'm giving it to Dad to hold on to. I mean, I'm in high school now, and if my parents are struggling, I figured I should help out. Besides, I don't need much money myself.
You're such a good kid, but haven't you ever wondered, if you have money coming in, why isn't it being used to pay for your tuition and other expenses?
Well, I mean, even the phone bill gets paid late sometimes. I just thought Dad really didn't have any money.
Is James currently working?
Yeah, he's going to the office.
I see. A bad feeling started to creep in. I couldn't help but wonder if James was using Luke's money. So, I decided to investigate James. Luke, can you give me about 3 weeks?
Well, sure, I guess.
And one more thing. Don't tell James anything about this conversation, okay?
Got it.
And so, I decided to investigate James' personal situation. I hired a private investigator and waited for the results. Normally, going this far would be excessively kind, even to the point of being naive. Well, I was doing this for Luke. It wasn't my responsibility to go this far for someone else, and some might even call me crazy. But I didn't care. If I saw a child about to collapse right in front of me, I would feel it's only natural to help. I didn't want to be the kind of person who could walk away. On top of that, I despised James for feeding Luke lies. While holding on to that anger, I waited 3 weeks for the investigator's report. When I saw the report, I was stunned, and at the same time, anger began to boil within me. It turned out that James wasn't a full-time employee, but a temp worker. Even worse, his contract had recently been terminated and he was currently unemployed. Apparently, he had been going to the job center but showed little motivation and spent most of his days gambling. Luke believed James was working just because he saw him in a suit, but the truth was, he was only pretending while supposedly job hunting. Moreover, there was no indication that James was making any serious effort to find work. What made James even worse was how he would easily apologize to Luke and act pitiful. This made Luke feel sorry for him and hand over all his part-time earnings. However, in reality, that money was being used solely for James' gambling and leisure activities. This was absolutely unacceptable. First, I needed to do something to improve Luke's situation, so I decided to call James' mother, Karen. It was lucky that I hadn't deleted her number from my contacts.
Hello. Oh, Rachel. What's going on? It's been such a long time.
Hello, Karen. It's been a while. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. Do you have a moment? I explained the current situation to Karen. The reason I reached out to her was that Karen and her sister, Sophia, were practically James' worst enemies. When we were married, this tension meant we didn't visit James' family often. After my divorce, I hadn't contacted Karen at all, but she seemed to believe that I left the marriage to pursue something I wanted and wasn't upset with me. I see. I'm so sorry. I never mentioned anything because I thought it would be better for you to hear it from him directly, but James was cheating.
What?
Hearing this, Karen's tone dropped. When I told her all the details, Karen let out an angry sigh over the phone.
Oh, that makes sense now. So the reason I wasn't told about the birth was because it was the child of his mistress. James brought Luke over a few times, but he told me not to contact you because you had just given birth and didn't want to see anyone. After giving birth, women can be emotionally vulnerable, and sometimes they even develop mental health issues. So I thought it was best not to reach out and left you alone. When I heard your reason for divorcing him, I felt bad but didn't know how to get in touch with you.
I see.
But now Luke stops by occasionally, and I'm happy to see him. He may be the child of an affair, but he's not to blame for that. I intend to stay on his side no matter what.
That's just like you, Karen. It's a relief to hear that. Actually, I called because I have a favor to ask. Could you take care of Luke?
Of course. I can't believe James was using the money Luke worked so hard to earn for gambling. That man needs a serious wake-up call.
I'll leave that part to you. But I'm worried Luke is so focused on supporting James that he's throwing away his own future. Please, let him live freely and grow up in a better environment with you and your family. Karen assured me she would do whatever it took to take care of Luke, and with that, his situation was resolved. Now, the only thing left to deal with was James. I contacted him a few days later and arranged to meet. I was still furious about the lies he had told. When James showed up at the cafe at the appointed time, his appearance had completely changed, looking worn and untidy unlike before.
I never thought I'd hear from you. By the way, you've aged. Well, whatever. So, this is about Luke, right?
You already know then. That makes things quicker. What were you thinking when you made him call me?
What was I thinking? I just did it out of desperation. Lately, I've been totally broke. I got caught doing something shady at my last job and had to quit. Then Olivia suddenly left and everything's been slipping away from me. Oh, but my mom and Luke still think I'm going to work every day. As long as you act apologetic, it's easy to fool everyone, isn't it?
Luke's your kid. Don't you feel bad for him?
He's a great son who gives me money. You don't find sons as considerate as him.
Really? Well, that's a relief. You just admitted everything in front of them.
What do you mean?
From the seats behind me, 3 people stood up and walked over to our table.
What?
You're seriously the worst.
We heard everything you just said. Even at your age, you haven't changed a bit, have you?
You're a disgrace as a human being.
It was Karen, Sophia, and Luke. To make them fully understand the truth, I needed them to see James' true nature firsthand. James started panicking visibly, unable to string words together properly. As everyone scolded him, James glanced at me repeatedly, as if silently begging for help. Don't bother with that face. You need to accept everything you've done and fully understand what a worthless person you've been. And so, this incident finally came to an end. Afterward, James continued to face relentless criticism from everyone and was eventually forced to find a job. The job was arranged by Karen's husband and involves manual labor. Everyone agreed to send James off, hoping it would straighten him out. Karen's husband also instructed the company to deduct part of James' wages as child support. The money goes to Karen and is used for Luke's tuition and other school-related expenses. Luke has been living with Karen and her family since then. Having lost all respect for James, Luke has reportedly been treating Karen's family with kindness and gratitude. No matter what, Luke seems to be a truly kind-hearted boy. I'm still unsure if the actions I took were the right ones, but I believe things have certainly improved compared to before. I genuinely hope Luke finds happiness. As Karen said, a child who's born into this world is never at fault.